All right, D. So after much hardship and delay, we are here to do another episode of the Demons from Outer Space. Is that correct?
I believe it is.
Episode 133. I'm Bill Worster, a.k.a. Zazubaar. He's Dillion McCandless. He also goes by Super DM64, if you ask him nicely enough. We are here to do a commentary on a movie. What movie is that, Dylan?
You, first of all, I'm very confident on your answer here regarding what episode number this is.
I fucking just edited and put up the last one, so it's fine.
I see. Yeah, we're gonna be doing another Godzilla movie commentary, which previously we had done, fucking 84, and then a long time ago, Megalon, and also that one drunk commentary on Godzilla's Revenge. But today
We're working our way through them all slowly.
today we're going to be talking about my personal favorite Godzilla movie, aside from the original from 1954, which is Honda's last Godzilla film. And wasn't it his last film period, or did he do something else after this? I don't remember. But
I
Terror.
don't know if he headed up directing on his own anything else after this. I'm not sure.
Right. I think he collaborated with Kurosawa on some stuff after this in the 80s. But I don't.
That I've heard about. I've heard whispers, but I don't know if he directed anything himself after this.
Yeah, but no, this is Terror of MechaGodzilla from 1975, the sequel to Godzilla vs. MechaGodzilla from 1974, which we did not do in a commentary format yet. Don't worry about it.
We'll get there. We warned you from the beginning of doing this. We were going to go through these out of order. Whenever we felt like doing one in particular, we were going to talk about it. Presumably, if you're listening to this, you're either a well-initiated Godzilla fan, or if you're not, you can go back to them and listen to them in order if you are, or go listen to Godzilla Palooza to pick out which ones are the ones that are worth actually watching and which ones aren't, and then you can line up the commentaries accordingly, I guess.
Yeah.
But listen, it's not about that. It's about watching individual Godzilla movies when we feel like it and talking about why they're cool and independently worth talking about on their own outside of the larger franchise. That's the idea. Because all of them, most of them, stand well on their own apart from the rest, despite the fact that they're part of this larger franchise, and even in their own little mini-series that break up the larger franchise. So that's why we're doing it this way, and I think it's really fun. So Terror of MechaGodzilla is standout one, and
the only two that I would say if we ever do, we have to do in order would be the two Millennium MechaGodzilla films.
We can do that as a double feature, even.
Yeah, sure. How long are they?
I mean, most of them are less than 90 minutes or a little over.
Yeah.
So I mean, we would break it up into two podcasts, but we could record them like it would be like a little mini Palooza.
Word. You keep using the word Palooza, and I think ultimately the reason we're not doing these Godzilla movies in order is that you did Godzilla Palooza, and the idea of going through the Godzilla movies in order again fills you with a existential dread.
It does.
Whether you're consciously aware of it or not.
It would. I have tics in the middle of the night. It's like Robin Williams after Jumanji. So yeah, this is a much more casual and pleasurable way to go back through the series. And again, to highlight them all individually as opposed to just looking at them as this part of a big mass of insanity. So sorry, I just wanted to make sure I had the DVD in the slot. We're going to be talking about Terror of MechaGodzilla tonight, so I hope that you, in addition to me, have gotten your DVDs out and ready to go, and gotten to 000, gotten past all the malarkey if you're watching it on a DVD. Otherwise, if you're watching it on the International Space Satellite in space, I wish you luck.
Yeah, does the International Space Satellite in space have this one? I'm not.
Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's available on the International Space Satellite in space.
At one time, it and all the other Toho Masterwork releases were available on Netflix. That was a golden age, and it is gone.
Yeah, it's sad.
Now the Sony releases are available on Hulu, in case anybody didn't know. So if you're a Hulu user, and there are some of the Sony released Godzilla films that you still need,
which is largely the Heisei movies.
You still need to acquaint yourself with. They're there and available.
So to make sure my subtitles are on. I just want to get to the main movie. Yeah, that was really complicated and long. I'm sorry. That's been the theme tonight. So, all right, D. Going into this, like you said, it's one of your favorites. It doesn't, when I do like a top 5 or anything, it doesn't usually crack that. If anything, I tend to put the first one over this. Although that's largely for just nostalgia, and also that movie is just a freaking blast of entertainment. This movie is a very different beast, and ultimately that's why I like it so much. But I do have a couple of issues with this movie we'll get into that kind of hold it back from being one of my top favorites, but just the sheer uniqueness of it, the darkness of it is another standout thing, and it's also refreshing in a period of Godzilla movies that really lack not necessarily only substance, but also this kind of grounded sense of scale, I think was lacking. That's not something that Jun Fukuda did as well as Ishiro Honda, and that's something that I think Terror of MechaGodzilla gets back to that I've always liked. But more than that, it made Godzilla seem a lot more intimidating and badass than he had seemed in the previous films, just in how he was shot and presented. As a science fiction film, I think this is probably the best of. As in terms of straight up Showa Godzilla science fiction, this is probably Honda's best. I prefer Ghidorah, I prefer Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster over this movie, not by a whole lot. But I think in terms of straight up, like aliens invading with big spaceships and monsters, this is his best. I definitely like this better than Destroy All Monsters and Invasion of Astro Monster.
Before we get started on the commentary, did we already establish for the audience that we're watching the Japanese version?
If we didn't, yeah, we're doing that. What's the difference, Dylan? I guess no. We'll talk about that in the commentary.
Yeah, there are many Godzilla movies where it doesn't really matter which one you watch because one will just be the dub of the other. This is not one of those cases. There's definitely...
We'll talk about it, too. There's kind of a discrepancy there. That's why I want to talk about it in the commentary. But yeah, we're doing the Japanese version just because we want to talk about the original film that was released for people to see by Toho, because that's what the movie is. And,
so whatever means you are watching along with us, and do be sure that you are watching the correct version.
Indeed. Well, all right, Dylan, I don't see much more reason to delay this any further. Are you ready to press play?
I am indeed.
All right, so let's press play in 3, 2, 1, play. All right, so let's talk about the thing we were just talking about, the discrepancies between the English and Japanese versions.
Let's do a time check real fast, just make sure we're like in sync here. So I'm at 11, 12, 13.
I'm like 14. A second behind you. I don't really think it'll be a big deal.
Okay. See, I would have assumed that I would have been behind you because my thing buffered a little at the beginning, but it's fine.
Just leave it. It's fine.
Yeah, so Terror of MechaGodzilla, opening credits. We are immediately introduced to one of the reasons that this is such a favorite of mine. Great score in this movie.
Akira Ifukube is back. He was gone for a while, as well as Ishiro Honda.
Yeah, and this is one of his best scores in the entire franchise.
It's one of his most iconic. Even it stands out next to his Ghidras and his Gojiras and his Rodans and his War of the Gargantuas.
Yeah, yeah. For me, I mean, I didn't have a copy of 74 growing up. It actually took me years to see that movie.
It's another one that I fucking saw early that you saw later. What happened here?
Yeah, we are so opposite in the order that we saw these Godzilla movies. It's insane.
I did see Terror of MechaGodzilla super young as well, though. Like that wasn't one that I saw later.
But I did have a copy of this growing up on VHS. So for me, MechaGodzilla.
You had like a proper VHS copy, though, right?
Yeah.
I had this one taped via AMC's Monster Fest.
No, this was one of the few ones that I was able to find in town that wasn't Megalon, and it was my favorite. I wore it out that tape, but yeah.
I had access to it, but not like ideal access.
So for me, growing up, the show of MechaGodzilla music was never the fucking like bum ba-dum from the first one. It was always this fucking dark fucking bum 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 bum. Like it's fucking. That's the other thing about this movie. It's, at least in terms of Honda's Godzilla films, it's the darkest one since the original, and probably the only one that reaches like a similar level of darkness. Like the story is super dark.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I think Ghidra isn't too far off. There's some violent stuff in that. There's some dark ideas with the espionage and everything. But I think visually, I think this one is more gothic. It has a gothic atmosphere that I think stands out from the other ones. Like his other films don't have that so much, as they just do this general sense of like kind of dread and foreboding.
At times, one almost gets like a 70s Hammer feel from this movie. It's
weird. Absolutely. And I think that that's intentional on Honda's part. And I think it really works with this era. I feel like he came into this era of Godzilla that he had stepped away from for a long time. And he went, I'm going to take what I like to do, and I'm going to do it in the more over-the-top arena that's been laid out for me. Because it is more over-the-top than anything he did in his era. Not by a whole lot, but still, it's more over-the-top. Yeah. And it has the more exaggerated superhero Godzilla of the later Showa films. So he definitely has to kind of mix and match his Godzilla with the Godzilla that was actually in existence at the time. Particularly being a direct sequel to one of Jun Fukuda's best, and one that has his tone in spades.
Yeah. I really love these opening credits where they just sort of rehash the action in the first film. Well, first of all, it was super helpful to me as a child having not seen it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, you knew Godzilla fought MechaGodzilla and beat him. Done.
Yeah. I also knew the whole like Terminator skin thing from where they showed the scene at the refinery early on.
So they couldn't pull that trick on you again.
Right. Well, no other version of MechaGodzilla has ever done that. So,
well, they did it in the IDW comics.
They should bring that back next time they do a fucking MechaGodzilla on film. Do the whole Terminator skin thing. See if anybody sees it coming.
Yeah, well, I mean, remember when they did it in the IDW comics? That it wouldn't have. It wouldn't have worked at all. It looks like a fucking bad Imperial Godzilla.
So, we're about to be introduced in a few moments to another reason that this is such a favorite of mine, because not only do we have MechaGodzilla in this movie, and the most badass version of MechaGodzilla, in my humble opinion, we also have Titanosaurus, who is a hugely underrated, one-time only kaiju who's just a friggin' badass.
And has a great intro scene here. Like, that's another reason why this was one that always stood out to me, is it's got this great, like, almost opening of Jaws-esque attack scene. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, and I like the turning of the tables in this movie, because in the last film, Godzilla had help fighting MechaGodzilla in the form of King Caesar, and it seems as though he needed help to win. In this movie, it's flipped. Godzilla has no help, and actually MechaGodzilla is the one who has a teammate, and so it raises the stakes to such a high level. Where
it makes it strangely darker too, because Godzilla is by himself and has these much more stacked odds against him. But
Yeah,
what
well, it
also
creates
makes it so much darker is that Titanosaurus isn't a willing part in the
right.
in the bad guy side. Like there's a lot more going on behind the surface of this one. You know, like Godzilla versus MechaGodzilla. There's a fucking prophecy that lays the plot of that movie out. It's all on Front Street. I kind of enjoy that beautiful over the top, you know, kind of directness. But this movie is a lot more complicated and it's a lot more dark, idea-driven, emotional science fiction, where it's more based on kind of psychological problems for people in their relationships, particularly the relationship between Katsura and her father, Dr.
And it creates
Mifune. One of the other reasons why this is such a standout and classic.
Yeah, and it does something that it's hard to do in a Godzilla movie, in that it creates a situation where you're not entirely sure whether or not Godzilla can win, or even if you're like, of course he's going to win, he's the main character. It creates a situation where you're like, I don't know how he's going to win, though. You know, it's
right. Well, he does get help from Interpol. We'll get there.
That's true. Interpol.
This all looks really good.
The greatest kaiju of all. Yeah, this submarine model is pretty dandy.
But you know, so what I was gonna say before was since we got a little glimpse of 74 there, real quick, what are your thoughts on 74? Like as a movie, obviously you don't like it as much as this one,
right? No,
but when you went back to it, did you like this movie more? Getting that background is kind of what I want to know more so.
Yeah, 74 is interesting because again, I don't like it as much as this movie, and it's got that sort of Jun Fukuda, you know, feel. And I'm not as big on his films as I am on, you know, the Honda entries, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But
oh, boom, there he is.
Oh, yep, I love his roar too.
Oh, it's so good.
Also love the design.
It's also unique, isn't it? It just stands out from all the other stuff we've gotten.
He's very aquatic. He has that sort of Asiatic dragon look going on while still being bipedal, you know.
It's also nice to get a basic dinosaurian monster.
Yeah.
In addition to a space monster, you know, like obviously we're going back to MechaGodzilla. We've seen him already, so it's nice to have something new in the mix. But it's an Earth-based, you know, back to basics dinosaur monster. So not only are we kind of aping Godzilla by doing MechaGodzilla, but we're kind of aping Godzilla on his own home turf, which is a competitor.
Oh yeah. Titanosaurus is definitely another sort of dark reflection of what Godzilla is, in that he, much like Godzilla in the original film, is introduced to us by destroying a seafaring vessel.
Right.
Submarine as opposed to a boat.
I kind of wish they would have tried to frame Godzilla with Titanosaurus before all the shit goes down. Like that would have been another nice change from the last movie. Which, by the way, this is a nice sequel, like, because it is a direct sequel to the last one that doesn't have like sequelitis and feel like exactly the same movie. There are a lot of things that are similar. The three monster fights. Well, I mean, not the three monster fights. The three monsters in the final fight, and the fact that there are only basically two monster fights, and not a whole lot of Godzilla. That's another thing that they have in common.
Yeah,
that's I think that's actually a bigger problem in the other one as opposed to this one, partially because Godzilla's name isn't really in the title of this one technically.
Yeah, but to finish your answering your question about 74.
Oh, sorry.
It's probably, though, my favorite of the Fukuda Godzilla films, I think, and I think
mine too.
It's probably second best in terms of the 70s Showa period, because the 70s, I kind of consider 70s Godzilla, even though it's still part of the Showa series, kind of its own separate entity from the 60s stuff, because they're just so different from each other, you know?
Yeah, it's two distinct periods. It's like the 30s and 40s of Universal monster movies.
Yeah, but out of that '70s series, this is obviously my favorite, but I think that's like a close second.
Without a doubt. But did you like Terror? Did you like this one more? Going back to '74.
I don't know that it enhanced my enjoyment of this film, just because what I needed to know about '74 to enjoy this movie, they gave me in the opening credits, so it's not as if I was exposed to any like, you know, uh, material that was like a revelation. You know what I mean?
Did you see that bit a few seconds ago where the spaceship like flashed in real quick, and then we were introduced to the alien characters here?
Yeah.
I mean, I get why they did that because, you know, our lead guy Mogul here just flew in via spaceship to the planet Earth, and he's like, "How was?" Or he actually flew on a human plane as well, but he's arriving. So I don't know why Ishiro Honda threw that in there. That was like a weird. It was almost a weird throwback to like Yoshimitsu Banno in Godzilla vs. Hedorah, like just having a weird cut, you know?
Yeah, that's maybe the only piece of very relevant information from the last movie that wasn't shared in the opening credits. The fact that these aliens are monkeys.
Yeah,
Like,
we have no idea. Well, we have no idea that MechaGodzilla was even built by aliens. We can only presume.
they don't address the fact that there are space apes in this movie at all. I don't even think we ever get to see it. So it's
we know that MechaGodzilla comes from space because the people at the beginning in the submarine mention, because they're looking for MechaGodzilla's head, which I think is an interesting bit of carryover.
Yeah.
They say they always made of space titanium, so we know he comes from space. But anyway, like I said, there was a weird cut that I was asking if you noticed.
So you were wanting to discuss the differences between the Japanese and English versions. So
Yes.
perhaps all of these human talkie scenes are the time to do so.
Sure.
So,
So one of the big things that I want to open with is that the American theatrical release of this in 1978, infamously known as The Terror of Godzilla, was put out by like this independent film distributor called Bob Cole Industries, and he bought the rights to Godzilla theatrically from Henry G. Saperstein. However, Henry G. Saperstein retained the rights to Godzilla on television. This is important. So, Bob Cole, I believe that was his name. I believe I'm saying that right. I can't remember if there was an ER at the end. He butchers this movie in post to cut out all of the violence that he possibly can to make it a G-rated film. Because this is one of the darker Godzilla movies, that would be more difficult, as you can imagine. Definitely no Katsura's tits in that version.
no.
But all the blood, all the gunfighting, the throat cutting, all that gone.
Yeah,
All the implications of Katsura's surgery gone.
Yeah. The ending is different as well, isn't it?
Well, yeah. There's not a Katsura's death scene is cut out. Yes, and like her actually dying. It's kind of implied at the end that she's gonna die because she's got a bullet hole in her, but there isn't the actual scene where she dies and where Ichinose clambers out of the fucking lair with her body. But it's just there to cut out all the violence and death, you know. But the reason I bring it up is that Henry G. Saperstein retained the rights to Terror of MechaGodzilla on television. And that version retains everything except the Katsura breasts. That's it. That's the only thing that was cut out. But that's also the version with like the fucking 10-minute prologue that explains the backstory of who Godzilla is, in addition to the backstory we already get of Godzilla versus MechaGodzilla.
Right, yeah.
which is it's haggard together through stock footage from Invasion of Astro Monster and fucking Godzilla's Revenge.
Now, which of these English versions is the one that's available on the DVD? Do you remember?
The one that I'm looking at right now has the English version that it has is the Henry G. Saperstein TV release. However, the DVD that I had when I was growing up, the Classic Media DVD, had the Terror of Godzilla version.
Yeah, I can't remember for the life of me which one my VHS tape was growing up. I want to say...
Without a doubt, it was the Henry G. Saperstein version. I can almost say without a doubt.
The television version?
Did it have the prologue?
I want to say yes, but it's been so long.
Yeah, I want to say you had to have seen that version first, because the discrepancy of it being put, the Terror of Godzilla version being put on the DVD was like huge. Like Henry G. Saperstein was like, I don't know why they did that. They had the rights to mine, which was the more complete version and not all that violent. It had the part that was, it had the part that made it like for adults only cut out. So that was a huge debacle. But now the proper English version has been put on DVDs. Because the Terror of Godzilla version isn't worth nothing.
But regardless, the important thing to remember is that if you're not watching the Japanese version, you don't get to see Katsura's tits. So
I actually think the scars on the throat is retained in that version, which is interesting. Because I remember seeing that when I was a kid. It's a confusing mess, the different English versions.
That was another kind of a weird cut in that it's just a weird way to introduce Dr. Mifune.
I like that Dr. Mifune is dealing with this dude and not Mogul, the lead bad guy from the last movie who's back inexplicably. I think he's playing a different character. I don't think it's the same guy because he has a slightly different name. I can't remember the exact discrepancy, but they're slightly different characters.
Yeah. One has to wonder if Honda making this film his last and also having the sort of parallels to the original, what with we already discussed Titanosaurus being sort of a dark reflection of Godzilla from the original film. And then we have Mifune here, who's basically evil Serizawa,
played by Akihiko Hirata, yeah.
Played by evil Serizawa, as it turns out. So it's interesting, He's sort of retreading familiar ground right at the end here, coming full circle in a way, but also telling a new story involving android women and.
Yeah, it's very different. I like the idea of him controlling a giant monster. That's fucking fascinating. And I like that what he was doing, like Serizawa, started out of benevolent intentions, but like you said, at one point he just decided to say fuck it. I'm going bad. This is a great bit.
We're coming up on probably one of my favorite scenes. Definitely the most memorable is the hangar scene here.
Yeah, this is all really cool. This is also like our first introduction to like, oh, MechaGodzilla is a thing.
Right. Well, other than the opening credits, yeah.
No, but I mean, again, like it's not done. Like he's back again because it's all been about Titanosaurus so far.
Yeah, but we're about to get this sort of pan up shot where we see just MechaGodzilla in the hangar and like, all the repairs that are going on to him and like he's strapped into like the machines and there's like cables hanging off of him and shit. It's been replicated in almost every version of the character since this, and it's super iconic.
But it's also cool because you're just like, he's being fixed, he's being rebuilt from scratch. And it kind of, it brings that to life, even though it must have been happening for a long time. It's kind of like how when they showed the second Death Star in Return of the Jedi, it wasn't finished. just to give you the impression of like it was being built in response to what happened in the other movie, you know? Yeah, that's a great shot.
I tried the pan down, not a pan up. That always struck me as weird. They should have started at the feet.
Yeah, but I like starting on the face.
So friggin' cool.
Yeah,
Love
and
that.
it also comes into this shot here, so I think it works.
Yeah, and you know what? You're right. Because he's coming through the window. It's really cool.
I love how they start to put it together because fucking MechaGodzilla is a thing. Shouldn't they have put it together after Dr. Mifune's daughter was turned into a robot?
I like that.
Well, has that happened yet? Fully? Is she a full-on cyborg yet, or is it just kind of partially?
I don't remember. I think she definitely is, because she was controlling Titanosaurus at the beginning of the movie, but I don't think she's, like, lost her, like, at a certain point she, like, loses her emotions.
When they build in the MechaGodzilla controller for her is when she goes, like, really bad.
Right, yeah, so that hasn't happened yet.
No.
It's
such a good movie. Like, there's a lot of just interesting science fiction ideas that really stand out. That's why I decided to pick this one now, because I think it's, we're talking about Invasion of the Body Snatchers this month. We talked about fucking Star Wars, Dark Empire, other things that I'm forgetting. Just like, darker science fiction stuff.
You could actually ask an interesting question at that point, whether or not she's controlling MechaGodzilla or if it's the other way around. It's very interesting that as soon as she gets installed with that device, she becomes, the fucking emotionless pod person, essentially. Is
it because MechaGodzilla just needs her to tell her, it, like, do this now. Like, MechaGodzilla is already ready to go. That's all built in. It's just a matter of being told when to do it. So,
maybe
what, his, the cold lack of emotion that it has in terms of just, raw desire to kill Godzilla is all that's powering. I wish. Doesn't it make you wish that Katsura had more of like an outward hatred for Godzilla in those parts? Like that came more to the forefront?
Perhaps, yeah.
That would have been fun.
Would have been nice to see, I suppose.
Overall, one of my qualms with this is I wish Godzilla got a little more to do. He shows up at one badass point in the middle. The fight lasts for 2 seconds. And then he shows up for the climax at the end. And it's an extended, awesome climax. But the story is about the other monsters, and then he just kind of shows up to get the crap kicked out of him. Well, he doesn't even get the crap kicked out of him in the first fight. I mean, he beats the crap out of the Titanosaurus, seemingly. And
that's one reason that it's a huge misstep on the part of of that first American version to retitle the movie Terror of Godzilla.
Right.
Because this is very much MechaGodzilla's movie.
Without a doubt. Well, yes, and Titanosaurus also gets a lot of to do. But and because Godzilla's name isn't in the title, I don't think it's a huge problem. It's a movie that he's in, but it's not about him. But I wish he just got a little more to do, especially because the spacemen seem to have this kind of like desire for revenge against him specifically, in addition to conquering the Earth. So I wish there was more of that. It's only a little bit once Godzilla shows up towards the middle, when the spacemen are like, oh, he's coming. It's going to be fucking great.
Yeah. If anything, this movie is a little bit more focused on the human story. The human story in this is so much more essential than, a lot of times in these giant monster movies, there's a monster plot going on, and then you could put any number of human characters in there, just to pass the time, essentially. But in this, it's so deeply tied together. What with the Dr. Mifune and the control experiments and
Well, because
turning.
there's a lot more going on. There's a lot more people that fill specific roles. We have Interpol agents, we have a marine biologist, and we have the family who's in cahoots with the aliens. And we have our, intermediary marine biologist here who likes the girl and can understand the scientist, but is on the side of the Interpol agents. Ultimately, Ichinose is another reason I really like this movie. He's one of my favorite Godzilla protagonists. Partially, I like the marine biology thing. I prefer Godzilla movies that focus on scientists and not news reporters.
Yeah. I also really like Mifune because
and Mifune, of course, is another scientist, so that works.
We don't get a whole lot of human villains in the show series. It's usually some aliens, which I mean there are aliens in this movie,
and they're human bodies like they usually have to do.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how many other examples there are of like a human antagonist. I mean, I guess
Mothra
the guys
versus Godzilla, Ghidra. I mean, Astro Monster is aliens. Sea Monster. Godzilla's Revenge.
if you count Godzilla's Revenge.
Godzilla versus Megalon. Because those aren't technically aliens.
Utopians, so yeah, all right. Okay, so I guess there are.
Is Aquaman an alien, Dylan?
I don't know. You tell me.
He's not. Hey, that's the exact same bit of space titanium from the first movie. Where did he get it? Oh, this is the guy who has the throat cut.
Right.
Oh, no, he's not. This is the guy who found the guy who had his throat cut. This guy is somebody's brother, right? No? No, he's not.
So I guess now that I think about it, there are a lot more just normal human antagonists in the show series than I was remembering at first thought. But
why are they taking people prisoner again?
Obviously, they're not all that memorable. I don't know. Is it to work on rebuilding MechaGodzilla? Are they using them as like
That's
slaves
what I
or
was
something?
thinking. I'm not convinced of that, though.
Or is it just, hey, these people have gotten too close, they know too much, capture them? Like there's this whole like fishing village like around this house where Mifune lived, so it's possible that people have just stumbled upon what's going on.
No, it's on an island on its own. I'm pretty sure.
No, because earlier the Interpol agents were talking to those fishers, and then they were like, "Look over there, there's the house." They pointed, and then they turned around.
Isn't it on like an island on its own? No, okay. So I think there is. I think there's a fishing village on an island, but I'm pretty sure it's all on an island. Why do they need a marine biologist to help build a MechaGodzilla?
I like the designs of the aliens in this movie better than in '74.
Well, yeah, I mean their costumes are more extravagant, I guess. The helmets are kind of dopey. I kind of just like. I disagree with you with the leader. I liked the just black paint on the face, and the fucking basic silver jumpsuit. He's fucking going around smoking his cigars, drinking his fucking wine. I like his performance better in the first movie. He's good in this, but he's more reserved and he's angrier. He's a different character. The guy in the first movie is more like a Bond villain. You know, he's kind of a scumball.
Mm-hmm.
This guy, he's more of a stern, kind of malevolent military leader.
God, I can't believe we were in an elevator with that woman.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild to go back to this. I wonder if he calls up lots of girls asking them to go find dinosaurs with him.
Mhm. I wonder if he ever stood in an elevator with her.
I feel like if I called up girls with that proposition, more of them would hang out with me, but it didn't work for him because he asked the wrong girl. Any other girl in the world would have jumped at that.
Right, but she was like, "Oh, I can't right now because I'm an android." And you're like, "Oh,
I
okay."
can't right now because I work for aliens. I'm sorry. It's a big
Have to,
problem.
they have to program me to kill Goku. What? Oh, I'm sorry, wrong franchise. To control.
You know what's good about the human stuff in this movie? It's fast-paced. We already know quite a bit about these characters. We don't know everything, but we already know quite a bit. Damn.
Shot her with the fucking headache gun.
Well, now she's going to have, No, I don't know if it's yet.
I like
Well,
this
here
too.
we're getting the rest of the backstory.
What I like about this, Katsura's kind of got a little bit of a RoboCop, Blade Runner type thing going on. You know.
I like those drawings of Titanosaurus, but yeah, she does. She kind of feels like Rachel from Blade Runner, a little bit. I kind of wish she had like burns and stuff. And were they just like on standby? Were they just waiting? Like,
Yeah, that's a good question. Also, how much time has passed since that happened? Because Mifune, he's got like short black hair.
and how old was Katsura? This is a really creepy, like awesome scene, but it's making less sense now that we're thinking about it. How did they know what was going on? Why were they? I guess they were probably already surveilling Mifune because they wanted Titanosaurus.
How much time has passed since the last movie? Only supposed to have been a year, right?
Yes.
So how long have these aliens been on Earth?
However, no, but they must have been. This part of their plan must have been inactive before the first movie. That's got to be the idea, right?
I guess.
Unless Mifune working for them has somehow resulted in him aging rapidly. But no, Katsura seems to be older as well. Like, when they do that flashback, it's clear that, like, she's supposed to be, like, more of a teenager, and now she's, like, in her late 20s. Mid to late 20s, let's say. So, yeah, I mean, the spacemen from the third planet from the black hole must have been
around for a while.
They must have had the Titanosaurus side of their plan brewing before they tried to stop King Caesar from fucking up their shit. You know what? In fact, that kind of makes 74 more interesting if you think about it that way. That they felt that they were getting cornered by what was going on with King Caesar, so they felt that they had to throw their plan into gear then, in order to get a one up on that. I don't know why they were so scared of this ancient Earth prophecy, but they seem to have been. That's never explained. They never explain why they're so scared of that.
I also don't know why they're aware of this ancient Earth prophecy, let alone being afraid of it.
They must, at the very least, be aware that King Caesar is real. That's got to be one thing.
Well, clearly they've been on Earth for longer than we know, because they obviously, had time to do this whole Katsura thing behind the scenes.
And also to base MechaGodzilla on Godzilla and build him.
Right. So they must have been on Earth for years, biding their time and just scheming.
Watch other alien races invade and not succeed.
Right, fucking cockroaches with their cassette tapes and whatnot.
No, they wouldn't. Technically, they wouldn't have seen the sentient rocks because that's in the future. Technically,
Can you imagine if Gigan had turned out differently? Like if the cockroaches had succeeded and taken over the world, and then the fucking apes came out with their MechaGodzilla and was like, now we're gonna take it from you, and then you get Gigan versus MechaGodzilla.
that would have been cool. I've always wanted to see that. So they just introduced Titanosaurus' Deus Ex Machina weakness, supersonic waves. But that just disrupts the control that Mifune is using. And it seems like the control mechanism that he's devised is what the spacemen are really after, even more so than Titanosaurus and his daughter and just even him. It's that particular control mechanism that he devised. It seems to be like more effective than whatever they were using. Like, remember in the first Godzilla vs. MechaGodzilla when MechaGodzilla got put down for the count after one blast from Godzilla?
Yeah.
And his head control got put out of order, quote unquote. So maybe they were all overall having a hard time, like, just keeping the damn thing under control, and that's why they had Mifune on standby. I don't know why we didn't see him in the first movie though. Then why they didn't call him up and be like, "Oh no, well they didn't. They didn't even know that they were aliens."
I mean, at the beginning of this movie, we see Titanosaurus destroy that submarine. So I would assume that maybe Mifune didn't have the Titanosaurus technology finished at the time that the 74 film was taking place.
Yeah. So when they drink the wine at the beginning, I think that's because the Titanosaurus controller is finished, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you're probably right.
We should have got. It has been a little bit since I've watched this one in particular. You know what this one does better than the last one though? The James Bond stuff. Like this is all, and Honda always had a better handle on that than Fukuda did, because Fukuda always made it. He always went too far with it and it got ridiculous. He was like the Roger Moore Bond, whereas Honda was always doing a more Connery Bond kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. This feels more Goldfinger, whereas that felt more like not even good Roger Moore Bond, like kind of Moonrakery, you know, and how ridiculous it was.
Yeah, this is fucking good, fucking evil science fiction bad guy stuff. I like this.
I like how the third planet from the black hole just uses whips.
See this guy. See he's playing a different character than he was in the first movie, without a doubt.
It is I, Japanese Colonel Sanders. Japan should.
The wardrobe on Akihiko Hirata is also really good. I mean, he was in the last one as well. He was the other scientist. Right.
Japan should definitely open their own version of KFC and have Dr. Mifune be the mascot.
It would be KTC.
I would eat at that.
Or KFT. KFT rather.
I would eat there all of the time.
I'd love to try some Titanosaurus. Sorry, I'm looking up cast lists for these movies. I'm trying to make sure, because I'm pretty sure that the villain is the same actor, even though he's not the same character.
Oh, it's definitely the same actor, I think.
I know the voice in the dub is the same. Yeah, it is the same actor.
I thought so. I also really like his henchman in this movie, the beardy one.
Yeah, he almost doesn't even strike me as a real henchman. He almost strikes me like maybe a Mercy to a Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
That's more henchman-y than I think he is, though.
You're saying he's more of a henchwoman.
No, I would say he's more of a Vader to a Emperor.
A Jaws to a Stromberg.
No, I think it's more like Vader and the Emperor.
I don't know if they have as close of a and personal of a relationship as Vader has with the Emperor, but
Potentially not, but I
maybe
still...
maybe more Tarkin Emperor.
Okay. No, you know what? Probably more Tarkin Vader. Now that I'm thinking about it. The military leader is Vader, and then the beardy guy is Tarkin. Because there's got to be some emperor out there running this whole fucking show. This is the military leader and the fucking political dicey strategist. Huh. Wild shit, man. Wild shit. One of the other really interesting things about Katsura's character is her conflict between, she still has a lot of humanity in her despite what they fucking ripped out of her. So whenever she goes and talks to Ichinose and he fucking puts the charms on her, it works a little bit. And, oh wow, look, Dylan, continuity in a Godzilla movie. Get that out of here.
Yeah, this is one of the more effective uses of stock footage, I think.
Yeah. Oh my god, monsters that have actually appeared in this universe. How insane. Wow, that's... Hey, Honda. Good job, buddy. Liking the continuity use there. I forgot about that. I like the idea there of, like... Is Titanosaurus just going to be another means of terror for the human race? Because all of the monsters that she just listed are monsters that have been controlled and used by invaders. Ghidra, obviously. Rodan was controlled by the Exilians in Astro Monster. And then, of course, Amanda is controlled by fucking the people of Mu. So, is Titanosaurus just going to be another weapon, basically? Which also makes Mifune a little bit of a Serizawa dark reflection, because Serizawa didn't want his science to be used as a weapon. He wanted it to benefit the world. And Mifune, even if he doesn't give a fuck about the world, the idea of his technology becoming a weapon is somewhat... There's nothing... He's not interested in that kind of thing. He's interested in far grander, more, kind of overladen ideas. That's not a bad composite.
No, although the proportions are obviously way off.
Yeah.
That's a common problem in these movies, though, whenever they put a monster behind, like, some mountains, but, like, you see them from, like, the waist up.
Right.
You're like, first of all, how big are they?
I mean, how about when Godzilla's standing in the water in the middle of the ocean? The middle of the open ocean.
First of all, how big are they? And second of all, where are their legs?
Right.
At least in the ocean, you can say that Godzilla's like, I don't know, doggy paddling or something.
Yeah, but he's not moving like that. It doesn't work. No. I mean, it doesn't, but who cares?
Well, this is really
my
cool.
God, we're... Hey, Dylan, speaking of, we're about to see Godzilla.
I know. I love what we're starting to get now, these destruction sequences with Titanosaurus and MechaGodzilla. There's one particular shot, I'm not exactly sure when it's going to come up, but it's one that's always stuck with me, where you see Godzilla...
How did they get out? Did they really teleport? Because these aliens don't have teleportation as far as we know.
Maybe some sort of cloaking device.
What the hell happened? They just disappeared.
I think it's supposed to be confusing on purpose. It's like, what is this alien technology?
Uh,
Maybe But anyway, so there's a shot at some point in this film, and I would wait until it comes up to talk about it, except that I'm not entirely sure when it's going to come up. But it's during the big destruction scene where Titanosaurus and MechaGodzilla are just wreaking havoc, and at one point MechaGodzilla is in the background, and in the foreground we see the town. There's like a street and buildings and shit, and then he fires his finger missiles, and remember he's still in the background, and the foreground of the frame just fucking explodes as he's just like destroying the city. It's fucking great.
yep. That was always a standout shot for me as well. But I love this bit. I love it. It's like the strategy here is great. So they didn't ask him to send out Titanosaurus this time. That was him in a little act of defiance going, this is my dinosaur, I'll do with it what I want. And they were like, alright, let's see what happens. Well, this fucking leader dude was. The mustache guy wasn't about it, because he was like, well, it's a waste of resources. And then he was like, look who's coming. And obviously we know that Godzilla's on his way. So his idea is, let Titanosaurus weaken Godzilla now, potentially kill Titanosaurus, get him out of the way, and then MechaGodzilla will have Godzilla all to himself, and Godzilla will already be wounded. This doesn't work at all. However, it's a good idea. Because on his own, Titanosaurus doesn't really stand a chance against Godzilla. Or at least it doesn't seem so.
I feel like he's a match physically, but he doesn't have any energy attacks to speak of.
Yeah, but Godzilla's also got... He's broader and he's got stronger arms. Titanosaurus' arms are kind of a little gangly.
I've always pictured like a fight between Godzilla and Titanosaurus, though. At least in terms of purely physical tooth and claw fighting, not any sort of special powers. To be kind of analogous to the Spinosaurus versus the T-Rex in Jurassic Park 3.
Well, that's what Titanosaurus is obviously aping.
Yeah, one of them is taller and more slender and longer and more sort of elegant, and the other one is sort of a little shorter and sort of more stacked.
Well, in this little bit that we're going to see where they fight here, Godzilla just punches him down. He uses the atomic breath initially, but he just beats him down. We'll see it. This is a good destruction scene, though. It's it's all a little anticlimactic, though. Like, I wish there was more to this bit here. I kind of wish Godzilla had gotten wounded in this little fight.
Up from the depths.
Yeah, that's a great moment. Wow. Honda just knows how to make Godzilla look cool. And it's also a great return of the Ifukube theme. It had been missing from some of the previous films.
That was a great little moment right before he shot, right before Titanosaurus took an arrow to the knee. You just saw Godzilla silently stand up behind that building.
They did that in the last one, too. Man, that was a cool shot. This is pretty much all the fight we're going to get, though. Great build-up, not much payoff. I wish I could do that. So that's why she has to be made more of a cyborg. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And you know what else I like about that? Technically, it's his fault, and it's got nothing to do with the aliens. And that's also why Titanosaurus fucks off. So at least there's a story reason for why the fight gets cut short. It's still disappointing, though. Only because in this Godzilla movie, that was our first introduction to him, and he didn't really get to do much. However, we're not going to have to wait that long to see him again, so that's why it's not really a big deal.
Yeah, I forgot about all that. With her getting shot in the neck and whatnot.
I like how the jig is up on their identity now, though. Like, they know that she's bad news.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey.
Those aren't real, though.
No, definitely not.
Hey, look, there's a whoopee cushion in there.
We would know. We saw the real ones in an elevator once.
I wasn't looking at those. I was too scared. Not even because I knew who she was, but because I'm terrified of people in elevators. I just assume they're going to pull out a knife and just start stabbing everybody.
Well, no, that was the fucking ridiculous thing about the entire situation. We didn't realize who she was until after we got out of the elevator. We were halfway down the hall, and then it was as if one giant collective light bulb went on over all of our heads. We just sort of turned to each other and we were like, "Was that?"
Well, I was kind of wondering about it in the elevator. I was like, "Nah, there's no way." And then when we got out, we were like, "Oh shit!"
Like, she couldn't have been any more obvious. She was holding a MechaGodzilla doll.
That's what gave it away. And I was just like, "This is a little weird." Yeah.
It was also clearly a Japanese woman, an older Japanese woman.
What? Who couldn't have just been your average Godzilla fan?
Well, no, she didn't strike me as like a Japanese American person. Is what I'm saying. She very much was.
Maybe she's very devoted. She flew in from Okinawa.
I don't think you have to go to Godzilla conventions if you live in Japan. I feel like you can just go outside your front door and be like, "Yep,
That's Godzilla." You know what else I like about this movie? We get a military response, but it's not overblown. Like, we just get like the military responds, but we don't have to focus on it for like an entire fucking drawn out scene.
Yeah, it's nice to have a Godzilla movie every now and then. Not that I mind the military marches, but it's nice to have a Godzilla movie every now and then where we don't have to spend 5 minutes assembling tanks and
Right, especially when we know they're not going to do shit.
Scrambling jets and positioning maser cannons and all that tedium. If you're going to have a military response, keep it kind of secret until it happens.
Right. I mean, again, it just doesn't even matter in this context because it's just we know it's not going to work.
Or retrofitting a tactical nuke to run on analog and putting it on a train and moving it to San Francisco. Those kinds of things.
But this movie doesn't waste any time with bullshit anyway. It doesn't. There's nothing in this movie that I'm just like, oh, that's drawn out. Everything is just kind of like, we get through it, and then it's done, Like, we establish the human characters, we established Titanosaurus, we reestablished MechaGodzilla, we established the aliens' somewhat refined plan.
Maybe I'm overanalyzing this, but notice that for the rest of this movie, Mifune is kind of a victim of circumstance. He tried to sort of have his way, and it backfired terribly, and now his daughter is even deader than she was before. Notice now and
she's being used to control MechaGodzilla herself. Man, he's not happy. He's not in good straits.
Yeah, but notice, and this is where maybe I'm reaching and over examining things. But notice how now that he is in this sort of put upon position, he's no longer dressed as in the traditional mad scientist garb. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's just in a suit. He's just a concerned father. All he cares about now is his daughter. He saw that that was established when he dropped Titanosaurus's controls in the middle of the fight with Godzilla.
It actually looks like fucking Matt Smith's suit.
It does. Well, it's got the patches, the Einstein-esque patches. He looks very Einstein-esque as well.
He does. Very, very, very Japanese Einstein.
I like this house as a repeated location because it's creepy and fucking broken down, and
it's also huge. It kind of plays into that whole Hammer feel that I mentioned before.
Yeah,
because It almost feels like I'm at like fucking Castle Dracula from Horror of Dracula right now.
But
You know?
but it kind of feels like Doctor Who of this time as well, because it's alien stuff, but it's in the veneer of Earth-based gothic scenery.
That's true. Yeah, it's
So
very,
it kind of blends in.
very Pyramid of Mars, isn't it?
Yeah.
But with less bulky robo mummies.
I also like that the main character gets kidnapped and therefore feels like he has more to do with the actual monster stuff that's going on because he's in the control room of the two bad monsters. You know? Usually in Godzilla movies, part of the problem is in the third act, people are just standing around watching monsters fight. Ideally, you want them to be doing something a little bit more impactful, either while the monsters are fighting, or at the very least, be watching the monsters fighting in a context that makes more sense than just in a field.
They really have to, man, in order to, because they need to capture your attention, and it's hard to do in a movie where you're competing against giant fucking monsters.
Right.
You know, I mean, I'm sure every kaiju fan has had this before. I have a bad habit sometimes of sort of, paying really close attention when the monster action is going on, and then sort of going into autopilot for the rest of the movie.
Sure. It depends on the mindset you're watching and which one it is. This is one I pay more attention to the human stuff with.
Yeah, well, it's just
Final Wars, not so much.
It's interesting human stuff. That's well, I don't have that problem with Final Wars, only because Final Wars is the rare movie where the humans are fighting too. So,
well, yeah, during the human fighting scenes, sure, but the story stuff in that is, it's really dry.
I don't know. You got.
I love the universe in that. Don't get me wrong. Like, the universe in Final Wars is fucking awesome. But the actual story,
I just like the fact
it's one of the better Godzilla alien invasions, though. And it's one of the more interesting Godzilla alien invasions.
I just like that there's a Godzilla movie where you have sort of giant monsters DBZ fighting in a city, while simultaneously humans are Matrix fighting inside of a spaceship.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that too.
An intercutting between the two.
But the story around it is just kind of okay.
Yeah.
That's another movie that takes way too long to get to Godzilla, and that's part of the huge problem with it.
Well, at least they have a story reason for why he's incapacitated, though.
Right. But it's like Godzilla Final Wars. He doesn't show up for 45 minutes, though, and he's barely mentioned. Stand back, I'm going to shoot a gun at you.
Don't move.
Why were they taken prisoner? We never saw them working on MechaGodzilla. I guess that was the idea, but they needed to show that or explain that better. Presumably that's why they had their fucking throats cut.
They were taken prisoners so that Ichinose could rescue them.
Now, Ichinose's not rescuing them. The Interpol guys are rescuing them.
Oh, yeah.
Ichinose needs rescuing.
That's true. Okay, good point. They all look the same.
I make nothing bet, my dear boy.
There are two male leads in this movie. I get them confused.
I like that we just kind of because the monster action has taken so long to really get going proper. I mean, talk about Godzilla not having enough screen time. MechaGodzilla, not in a whole lot of this movie either.
Yeah, but who would have gone to a movie called Terror of Titanosaurus?
That's something that I think is a credit to Titanosaurus and a slight problem with this movie. I wish that both MechaGodzilla and Godzilla got a little more to do, but it's not really. It's only an issue in theory almost, Because what we actually have here is so satisfying at the end that you don't really feel like you need much more. Like we've only got 20 minutes left, but it's all action.
This is really the highlight of the movie for me. This is like, I think, my favorite destruction sequence. It's so, first of all, Michael Bay ate your heart out because the fucking explosions in this movie. And then just the pairing of that wonderful Ifukube score and the great model work and just MechaGodzilla and Titanosaurus both being so badass. It's just a perfect storm of giant monsters blowing things up.
You know what I like about this one better than the last one as well? We actually see their plan in action. Like MechaGodzilla is actually going to start his campaign of destruction in this film, you know?
Right.
Like they've begun their destruction of Tokyo, and it's not like a Godzilla attack, you know? Where it's like, just ripping buildings apart randomly. It's very, like, measured and kind of mechanical. Like they're kind of taking it apart bit by bit. Because it's all under a human measurement. That's a great shot. Another bit where the proportions are off.
Look at this.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good.
I don't think anybody topped this until fucking Independence Day.
Yeah. This is one of the best destruction scenes of a city in the Showa series. Because it's just, there's no limits on it. Like, it's just like, we're going to blow the fuck out of stuff.
I think it's one of the best destruction scenes of a city in the fucking franchise.
I would have to agree.
Showa series notwithstanding. This
and Godzilla's destruction of Osaka and Godzilla vs. Biollante always stood out for me. Just in terms of, like, we're just going to go crazy.
Right, and now, of course, we have here it is.
Yeah, this is the shot you were talking about before.
You see him fucking bringing his hand up. I love it.
I love Katsura coming in there, too. You almost kind of wish they didn't break that up. The missiles coming in and between him locking on with it, you know?
Yeah.
I almost feel like we don't need the spinning and Katsura's eyes.
That's just such an iconic moment for me because I don't know that that's been done all that much, where you have the monster in the background and then just everything directly in front of your eyes at the front of the frame just explodes.
This is the most Gamera thing that happens in this movie. This is one of the most Gamera-esque moments in Godzilla's entire life.
I don't know, Bill. Are those kids wearing booty shorts? Because if not a proper Gamera moment.
But look, he ran in to save some... I mean, they were like young adults, but they were younger than your average adults. But you see... Godzilla doesn't really get to be Gamera here because those kids are still definitely dead.
Yeah, I don't think Godzilla was coming in to save those kids. I think Godzilla was coming in to punch the fuck out of Titanosaurus.
He absolutely was, but the idea of that scene was to be kind of a Gamera moment. I mean, the kids were like, help us, Godzilla, save us. And he came in and he beat the fuck out of the bad guy. But, you know, with us looking back on this now, we know that those kids, look at the city around them. Like, that, they're gone.
You know, Titanosaurus's wind tail looks way more destructive than even Rodan when he like flaps his wings and makes stuff blow over in Rodan. I think that's just because, you know, this is years later and the technology is better. But it looks
I don't think Titanosaurus needs an energy attack because he's got this. Oh, this is such a good... It's not even a fight. It's just a fucking... beating down.
Oh yeah, the fucking massacre.
That's why I wish the idea of the spaceman wanting revenge on Godzilla was more kind of brought to the floor. And this is another big problem with this fight. I wish it was all in the city. It was originally intended to be, but they end up having to take it to the countryside for budgetary constraints.
The sheer brutality here is almost reminiscent of that moment in Superman Returns when Lex Luthor fucking stabs Superman with the kryptonite, and then they just start beating the shit out of him.
Yeah, it's that. It's Bane kicking down Batman in The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, that wouldn't be the last time, as it turns out, that Kevin Spacey penetrated a man.
No. Oh God.
Quite forcefully.
I had a thing I was gonna say. Oh, speaking of the budgetary constraints in this movie, so like Godzilla vs. Biollante, this is another Godzilla movie where the story came in from a contest. The person who wrote the script for this won a contest for their story, and this was one of the other rare Showa Godzilla movies not written by Shinkichi Sekizawa. Godzilla vs. MechaGodzilla was. And I think that's another reason why this one stands out so much like Biollante does. Because it was written by just some rando, you know?
This might be the best plot that was ever come up with by some, like, fucking random Japanese person in one of those contests. Like, what else have we gotten out of those contests?
I mean, I like Biollante more than this, but the script that came out of their idea was not written by them. The person who actually won the contest wrote the script in this case, so I think that's why it came out as good as it did, and why it's as retained as it is. Here's the thing that's different. In the original script, Titanosaurus was supposed to be two monsters that combined into Titanosaurus at the end. One was supposed to be humanoid, one was supposed to be more dinosaurian, and then they were supposed to combine together. But they had to cut that down. Oh, this is one of my favorite shots in the whole movie. Where the fucking explosions from the jets are going on. Godzilla just fucking pushes Titanosaurus over. It's so good. His advantage did not last long, though. This is another Godzilla fight that feels a lot like a Rocky fight.
Yeah.
And it's something I really miss going into the Heisei era. Like, they really abandoned all this kind of fighting for much more like beam battle type of stuff, you know?
It's also not unlike in DBZ when a new villain will show up and just, like, kick the shit out of the heroes.
Yeah, it's like when Beerus met up with fucking Goku on King Kai's planet. There's another iconic shot. Godzilla getting lit.
See, Godzilla, he smoked too much. Shit robbed him of his ambition.
His ambition to stand up. Ooh. That was a very directed kick right into that pit. Titanosaurus should be proud of that.
MechaGodzilla is like a fucking gunslinger in this movie. Every time he does the missile beams, he always like brings his arm up in that same like way, you know.
The tone on MechaGodzilla's metal is a different shade in this. Have you noticed that?
Is it less silvery? More?
It's more kind of dull, but I think it looks cooler.
Sort of flat and metallic, yeah.
This is odd. I like it, but it's odd. Because I always like when the monsters do this weird, like, intricate little stuff, but I don't know what the hell Titanosaurus thinks he's doing. Oh, I get it. I just thought about it. Dr. Mifune and Katsura, I guess kind of more subconsciously than she would like to think, are like trying to have Titanosaurus be the one who really like got the leg up over Godzilla, you know? Like, oh, Titanosaurus, yeah, stop Godzilla, you did it, woo! Whereas MechaGodzilla's like, yeah, alright, I did most of the work.
I just realized, I don't know if this was intentional, but they almost kind of ripped off Earth versus the Flying Saucers with the way that they stopped Titanosaurus, because it's a similar idea.
Oh, is that how that ends? Okay.
Yeah, in Earth versus the Flying Saucers, they rig up these trucks with these like sonic guns because they find out that like these high intensity sound waves can fuck with the alien spacecraft.
That's also kind of like Invasion of Astro Monster with the electromagnetic waves.
Yeah. It's also kind of like Mars Attacks with the
It's also kind of like
the
Independence Day with the virus.
with the fucking country music that makes the aliens' heads explode, which is how I often feel when I'm exposed to country music.
Ha ha. This is how most of my interactions with women have gone. You're not that kind of person. Be quiet. Okay.
Can I guess at least get a robotic hand job?
I'm already tied up. Godzilla's about to get his ass saved by some humans. I wonder how that makes him feel. Maybe that's why he's so melancholy and sad at the end, is because he got saved by some fucking dumbass humans.
Yeah, that's another interesting fact about this being the last in the Showa series. Godzilla really has come full circle now. Not only did he go from villain to anti-hero to superhero, but now he's like fucking getting his, you know, fucking bacon saved by some humans.
Yeah. Working with them in a way that... Because he's going to pin Titanosaurus down soon and let the humans get a shot at him. So, yeah, he's really come full circle. I mean, again, I also think that MechaGodzilla and Titanosaurus are supposed to be dark reflections of him to kind of show what he used to be.
I never understood what that weird river dance was that Titanosaurus was doing.
He's in pain. He just got shot.
No, I meant when he had his arms behind his back and he was just sort of dancing where Godzilla was buried before
He was very pleased with himself. He was ecstatic.
Oh shit, you done fucked with the wrong fucking
MechaGodzilla.
fingers.
There were two of them. You had two options. You picked the wrong one. Oh, that's awesome! I forgot about that. He just bursts up and fucking pops one off on him. Oh, that's great. Yeah! God, I feel like a kid. Oh, Godzilla's just like, alright, let's get back into the gear here.
Dust off his shoulders. Great.
I kind of like moments like that, too, because, again, it reminds us we're still in the 70s era. Like, yes, we're darkening this up and shit. It's a little more intimidating, but it's still 70s Godzilla. We're still having fun.
God, the pyrotechnic budget on this movie alone.
Yeah, because this isn't stock footage. Well, I don't think this is stock footage from the last one.
No, I'm pretty sure this is new stuff. Sadly, for those watching who are not aware, this movie not performed well.
Because there's an identical sequence to this, but King Caesar's in it.
Yeah. Anyway, this movie did not perform well at the box office,
No.
although to be fair, it was not a good time for Japan box office wise. Like nothing was doing well.
They were going through an oil crisis at the time.
So this was just sort of a casualty of that, and as a result, it was kind of underrated for a very long time. It definitely has sort of the acclaim now, and people talk about it a lot. But
I think people have put two and two together more that like, oh, this was Honda's last one. Fuck.
Yeah. Well, also more people have seen it because we live in the age of the internet, and it's easier for more people to have seen it, and people have realized, this is actually a really fucking good Godzilla movie. It's kind of the same thing as like The Iron Giant. That went from a movie that was not successful at the time to everybody going, hey, that movie's actually super underrated, to the point where now it's not underrated anymore because everybody is talking about how underrated it was.
Man, this fight's fucking awesome. This is the standout part of the fight for me, where they just get one-on-one beating the crap out of each other.
For me, the most memorable point in the fight is when he rips off MechaGodzilla's head, thinking that's going to work.
We're getting there.
Because of the last movie, and then when to find out, nah, bitch. MechaGodzilla's like the motherfucking Borg. He's adapted to your shit.
I like how they were like, are we going to stay on a high-tech base? No, we're moving into this guy's basement.
Mind you, Godzilla could have already won this fight had he retained his Magneto powers from the last film.
He didn't get struck by lightning.
Does he have to get struck by lightning in order to activate Magneto power?
That's how it works in Godzilla world.
I see. So is it like Is it like a 24-hour thing, or like how long would he have?
I
How
don't
long
know.
does?
I don't write the rules.
Oh yes, good old murder.
See, he's doing stuff. He's choking people out. He's beating the crap out of them. This is a Godzilla protagonist I can get behind.
That's what I like to see.
It's just, yeah. Oh, we're doing. This is just like Final Wars, where the fucking protagonist and Godzilla are both beating the crap out of somebody at the same time.
I wouldn't call it. Yeah, but it's not like a kung fu fight. It's more of
All right,
a good
it's it's a murder of a man.
it's a good garroting. You know, you don't get enough good garrotings in film.
Oh, that's a big reveal. I mean, they're not apes. They're like these weird fucking mutants in this version.
All right. Which raises all kinds of questions.
I'd be interested to know if they've been if they have some kind of disease or if something happened on their world that made them sick. That'd be fun to know, but they don't get into that. There's not enough detail on all that, in my opinion. But there's none of that in the first movie either, so who knows? I almost wish we could get like novels for these two movies that would like give us more detail on the alien invasion and everything.
Yeah, here it is. Fucking thought he won, but then the smoke clears.
Yep. Yeah, this little bit when I was a kid, this blew my mind. Like I distinctly remember watching this on AMC's Monster Fest, seeing that and going, "Holy fuck!" This is also a Godzilla movie that I saw on Halloween, and that forever affected my perceptions of it. And I think very appropriately. Like this is a gothic, scary ass Godzilla. Well, it's not super scary, but it's dark. So I think it's totally befitting of that time of year. Oh, you. I mean, if she's a machine, why would the bullet kill her?
She's a cyborg. I mean,
True.
he's more and more robotic than human, but still a cyborg. You know, maybe approaching the status of cybernetic organism instead. But you know,
True. He has not spent enough time with her to say I love you. Aw. She's sad.
he's just super bummed they never got to bone.
That's why he's saying he loves her. He's like, maybe I can get a quickie in. Oh, fuck. That's fucked up. Oh, boy. She just offered herself to him.
Well, I can destroy her downstairs.
Oh, because Godzilla or MechaGodzilla and Titanosaurus would stop. You should probably do it, though.
She does it herself.
Yeah, the suicide thing is, That definitely didn't make it into the American cut.
Yeah, how did they end the fight in the version where she doesn't kill herself? I don't remember. Do you remember?
In the version that is not the Terror of Godzilla, she still dies, but you just don't see her shoot herself. In the Terror of Godzilla version, I think it's just like fighting and destruction. I'm pretty sure that's it, though. I think Godzilla just blew up MechaGodzilla for good. Oh yeah.
Maybe they should have had a backup controller. You know.
I kind of wish there was more to it. I kind of wish the fight was longer after that. Like an uncontrolled MechaGodzilla going crazy, throwing everything he's got at Godzilla, doing stuff that doesn't make sense would have been fun. This bit also was always very iconic to me when I was a kid. Either they're really bad shots, or he's intangible. That'd be fine.
Or
he turned into water.
Or it was divine intervention, and now Interpol man will have to walk the earth like.
I like these spaceships, and I really love this. Godzilla just fucking wipes them all out single-handedly. So good.
He's like, oh no, we're not having a third one of these damn movies.
No, I'm done.
I just want to go back to my island and sleep until 1999.
Then I'll have to fight fucking Ghidorah again. Ugh! Godzilla's just like, get out of here. You're done. Don't make me kill you. I always thought Godzilla was a little harsh to Titanosaurus. You're like, it wasn't his fault.
Leave now, Titanosaurus. And maybe if you're lucky, you can get a guest spot on Ultraman someday.
I just don't like how vague it is if he's dead or not. Because I really don't want him to be dead. Because I think that makes Godzilla look bad.
Yeah. It's also a little distracting that whenever they have a monster in one of these movies jump into the ocean, it never actually looks like they jumped into the ocean. They clearly just set off an explosion under the surface of the water to get the splash.
That's why it doesn't work. It looks like Titanosaurus blew up. Don't worry, Ichinose. We got a couple Band-Aids on her. She'll be fine. Oh, that's the fake Godzilla from the last movie. That's no good. It's a little obvious.
Classic Godzilla walking off into the sunset shot.
This is the classic one. This has always touched my emotional heartstrings when I was a kid.
I mean, this is the end of the Ishiro Honda era.
Yeah. It's almost like he knew. It wasn't supposed to be the last one, though. Like, that wasn't intended.
No, but I think he probably might have known that it was his last.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, he didn't really want to do it. He was kind of reluctant. And, yeah. I mean, for the same reasons that he didn't want to do 84. They offered him that, too.
I'm glad ultimately that he decided to do one more and sort of end on a high note. You know,
I like that he bookended his Godzilla franchise. He started it and fucking ended it.
He went out with a bang, many bangs, in fact, probably the most bangs out of any show of Godzilla movie that I can think of.
I had more bangs than anybody ever. I can tell you that.
I know bangs. Bangs love me.
Dylan,
I have the best bang.
Terror of MechaGodzilla is pretty good, ain't it?
It's fucking great. I love it.
What I noticed about it this time more than any other time, the pacing is really, really strong. Way better than I have ever remembered it being. And I'm going to rescind that from my list of complaints.
Even though it takes a while for Godzilla to show up, like you said before, it doesn't feel that long just because those 40-whatever minutes are so well paced. All those human
There's a lot going on there. It's a good science fiction monster movie and kind of alien invasion spy movie mixed all together, and then Godzilla's in there. I still wish he had more to do in the story. Like, I wish the revenge angle was played out more with the aliens. And I wish the alien stuff was a little more developed. But overall, just this is some of the best of the over-the-top sci-fi Godzilla. If somebody says, like, oh, Godzilla should just be, like, super grounded and never fight aliens, show them this movie and tell them to shut their dumb mouth. Godzilla can fight whoever he wants, damn it.
Yeah.
He fought a fucking statue in the comics. He can fight anything. But yeah.
Man, that sounds like a really boring fight just on paper, doesn't it?
It does.
Godzilla versus...
It's astonishing. It's astonishing that that's the best issue of that series. But all right, D, that is Terror of MechaGodzilla. What a joyous ride. We hope that you enjoyed going on it along with us. And we hope that your appreciation for sea life in general has been improved by this film. I don't know. So Dylan, next time we don't have an exact plan. However, I would like to put forward that maybe we should do another Science Week. Would you be down for that?
I would. That sounds fine to me.
Great. We should. We were being a little loosey-goosey with that for a while, but I think we should do it again since we don't have anything planned for next week anyway, and we can sit on building up the next review thing and make it something special. So we'll get back to you on what that'll be next week. But like I said, we hope that you enjoyed this return to the end of the Showa Godzilla series, and we hope that you don't call Interpol on us. We don't want to be shot. Because that seems to be all they're good for. That's all they did in the whole movie was just fucking shoot people.
Yeah, even to get people out of a cage. It was like, stand back.
Stand back, we're going to shoot it down.
I'm going to discharge my firearm. Isn't there a more efficient method? No, sir, there is not.
Bullets. The only things I know. Well, until next time, I am Bill Worster, a.k.a. Zazubaar.
And I'm Super DM64.
And you couldn't see us because it's a podcast, Colonel Hogan.